Hello and welcome to the Football News Zone, the show where we go through the biggest stories in the beautiful game right now. The transfer window slammed shut at the start of this week, but which stories have been grabbing our attention the most this week? This week we go through the winners and the losers of the transfer window. We cover how a team in the Netherlands managed to draw a game with 12 men on the pitch. Yes, that actually happened. And we also explain Harry Kane's Premier League exit clause in his Bayern Munich contract. All that and a whole lot more is coming up in today's show. Let's dive in. So deadline day for the winter transfer window in 2025 has just passed. It's been a really eventful January transfer window on the whole, I would say. I'd say it's probably been the best for at least 3 or 4 years now. And with that, there's been a lot of deals, a lot of drama, a lot of interesting storylines really when it comes to this. And I wanted to have a look at 4 clubs. I wanted to go through 4 different teams and say whether they were a winner or a loser during this transfer window. Now, I'm just going to focus on the Premier League list because, of course, I am English. I do love the Premier League, and we cover the Premier League a lot here on the Football Chronicle. And also, in truth as well, I feel like this transfer window has not been that eventful for a lot of clubs in Europe, with the possible exception, really, of Italy. Some big signings there. Still, when you look at the scale of things, of course, the Premier League reigns supreme, being the most financially successful football league in the world. It's not really a surprise that most of the deals were happening, but not all of the clubs had a good time. Some clubs had a great time. But let's get into it, guys. Let's have a look at some of the winners and losers of the winter 2025 transfer window. And we're going to start with a loser, and that loser is Arsenal. Now, you might be thinking, well, Arsenal, what business did they do during the January transfer window? None. Nothing. No ins, no outs, no loans, no nothing. And, you know, Arsenal right now are performing pretty well on the pitch. Of course, they did a really good job against Manchester City at the weekend, getting a 5-1 victory. Some might say they don't need to strengthen, and I understand that sentiment. But at the same time, a lot of Arsenal fans and a lot of onlookers when it comes to Arsenal have been saying the exact same thing that really, in truth, they've been saying for the last 3 or 4 years now, and that's they need a striker. They need a number 9. They need an out-and-out forward to score them 20-30 goals a season, because right now they don't have that. Now, of course, Arsenal fans may well point to the fact that there are a lot of goals despite this. They really showcased that on the other day against Manchester City, but I would argue to make that team even better, they need a number 9. I fully subscribe to that theory, really, when it comes to it. Now, who that number 9 was going to be is anybody's guess. I mean, they were linked with the likes of Alexander Isak during the window from Newcastle United, and to be fair, to have a bit of sympathy for them, I do understand why they didn't do business, because to sign a player that probably would have cost £100 million, for example, because Isak would have cost at least that. I feel like that would never have been done in January. I feel like they never would have been able to afford that. They were, of course, linked with some other players as well, but also for significant fees. We're talking north of £50 million quite comfortably. So I would say overall, Arsenal are probably a loser when it comes to this transfer window, because they've done nothing. They've not improved at all. And yes, Liverpool have done the exact same thing. They haven't improved either, but the difference is that Liverpool are top of the Premier League and they are doing extremely well. Arsenal are near the top of the Premier League and doing pretty well, but to take that step to win the league, they need to improve their squad. And I don't think anybody from Arsenal will really disagree with that sentiment. I think Mikel Arteta, if he was being totally honest, would probably agree with that, because I think it's clear he wants to sign a striker as well, but whether it's the funds, whether it's the board, whether it's something else, they just didn't do it this window. And because of that, I feel like that could be a deciding factor in them not winning the Premier League and potentially not getting a trophy again this season. I'm just putting it out there, because of course they're out of the FA Cup. They could well get through to the final of the EFL Cup. I have backed them to do that, of course, in my preview for the Carabao Cup semi-finals, second leg, so check that out if you're not already, of course. But let's move on to the winners, a team that did a lot of business during this window, Aston Villa. Oh man, Aston Villa did some incredible business during this window. It was looking like being a relatively quiet one for them, really, until John Duran was sold to Al Nassr in a deal that is worth around £65 million and could well get to £75-80 million by the time all of the bonuses and installments and everything like that are eventually triggered, because even though John Duran's a very talented player, losing him for that amount of money I don't think is bad business for Villa at all. Duran clearly wanted to be a main man, be a main striker starting every week, and with the likes of Ollie Watkins there, unfortunately for him, it's far from guaranteed. That competition is definitely there. Diego Carlos being offloaded to Fenerbahce for £9 million is also good business. And Jaden Philogene as well. I mean, a bit part player really for Aston Villa. One for the future, but £20 million going to Ipswich. I feel that's a good deal. I really do. But the thing is with Villa, it's more the ins, because Villa have really struggled when it comes to Champions League, kind of the hangover and everything. Of course, they did very well in the Champions League this season, got in 8th place, got through to the round of 16 automatically, something that Manchester City couldn't manage, of course. More on Man City very soon, of course, though. But yeah, I mean, overall, I would say the ins, though, they've very much added depth to the squad, which should help them with games in the Premier League after Champions League matches, because their record in games in the Premier League after Champions League game is, you know, it's nothing short of abysmal. They've really, really struggled. I think they've only got 1 win in the 8 games that have followed Champions League matches. So that really does point to a lack of depth, a lack of freshness. Axel Disasi coming on loan from Chelsea, that's a good signing for them. Marco Asensio, that's a real coup from PSG. Marcus Rashford as well, if they can get him firing, if they get him playing very well, I think he could be a great signing for them. He's come on loan from Manchester United. Andres Goff coming from Levante, £6 million, that's a bargain. Daniel Malin as well from Borussia Dortmund for £20 million. Again, relatively a bargain, I would say. So some really, really good signings, offloading players with the exception of Duran, that they're not really going to miss, to be honest with you, and more than replacing Duran with both Asensio and Rashford as well, and Malin as well, I believe, is more of a forward player too, so really, really impressive for them to be able to do that. But let's go to another loser, and another loser, I did mention Manchester City, we'll get on to them, but let's talk about Manchester United. Now, Man United got rid of Marcus Rashford on loan, which I just mentioned, to Aston Villa. I feel that's positive for them. Also loaning out Anthony as well to Real Betis, that is positive, that's getting some more money in the club. Signing Patrick Dorgu for around 25-30 million pounds from Lecce, he's been a big target for them at left back. I think that's great for them. Aiden Heaven, you know, £1 million signing from Arsenal, relative bargain, one for the future, not someone you'd expect to play too much. But you got to look at Man United's squad, really, and they've effectively got rid of 2 forward, 2 wingers, or a winger and a forward, really, in Rashford and Anthony, and they've not replaced them. Now, I know, of course, Anthony and Rashford were not doing very well, but they're still players. They were still playing every now and again, or at least in Anthony's case anyway. Rashford very much seemed like he was frozen out of the squad. But, you know, Dorgu coming in, that's great, because that means, you know, that Shaw doesn't have to rush back for them to have a really good out-and-out left back, and I think he'll be a good player for them. But honestly, when you look at it, this is not going to change Man United's fortunes. I would not say that they are a markedly better squad now with Dorgu in there and having lost Anthony and Rashford. I mean, you know, a tiny little bit better perhaps, but, you know, and again, you know, the finances, like with Arsenal, the finances probably weren't there in terms of what they're able to spend because of PSR, but you can't deny that it's disappointing. You would have hoped for a lot more from Man United. They were linked with a lot of players during this window. Tell not coming in, I think, was a big disappointment for them. He looked like he was really wanting to sign, but it was just not going to happen because the finances weren't there. So disappointing from Man United for sure. I would definitely classify them as a loser. You cannot say they're a real winner during this transfer window, because of this, they'll still have to offload Anthony and Rashford at some point permanently as well. They've only gone on loan, so they're just kicking the can down the road with that. But speaking of down the road from United, there is City, Manchester City, and I feel like they've done really, really good business during this window. In terms of the players that have gone out, a bunch of players have gone out, 4 in total, but the only first team player that's gone out on loan is Kyle Walker. Now, Walker, of course, for me, I love Kyle Walker. I'm biased. I'm a Sheffield United fan, so he came through our academy. I got a bit of an affinity for the guy. I feel like he's going to do really well, though, for AC Milan over on loan in there. I mean, it was pretty clear that I think Pep actually quite liked Walker, but the board and the people around the club were saying, nah, this ain't it, Chief. He's kind of past his best, and unfortunately, he's not really been performing for Man City this season, so I feel like it's good they've got rid of him. And the players they've brought in 5 players. I mean, people said that Man City could spend around £200 million during this transfer window and be fine in terms of PSR because they barely did anything this summer. And so it proved. They spent around £200 million. They spent £50 million on Nico Gonzalez, a defensive midfielder from FC Porto. He came in on transfer deadline day. Vitor Reis as well from Palmeiras. He's a bit of one for the future. £30 million coming from Brazil, but that centre back is going to be someone who is going to be a part of that squad for years to come. Same with Kusanov as well, coming in from Lyon, £35 million, a relative bargain really for someone of his talents, someone who is very highly rated for the future too. Up top, they've also got Omar Marmoush as well from Eintracht Frankfurt, £64 million for him. Fantastic signing, really. Fantastic signings all around. And Juma Bar as well has come in from Real Valladolid. Apparently he belonged to or is on loan somewhere in Sierra Leone or Liberia or something like that. Never heard of the guy. One for the future. So Man City really, really doing well during this transfer window, in my opinion. And the rebuild, the revamp of the side, even though on the pitch right now it's not quite working out, as these new signings, Mamouche, Kusanov and Reish, and Gonzalez as well, eventually when he comes into the side after just signing, when they come into the side, they will very much, I think they will really improve Man City. And I think they're eschewing for top four, which, if you asked me a few weeks ago, that I would not have been so certain that they would be able to get top four, but I think they'll be fine, which of course will be a disappointment, having won 4 Premier Leagues on the row, in a row, to, come and unfortunately not be able to really defend their title. But considering how bad they were not too long ago, they had relegation form, simple as that. But now I think they'll be all right. I think they'll do okay in the end for Man City. But yeah, there we go, guys. Those are some of the winners and losers. Some with Manchester City and Aston Villa as both winners, and Manchester United and Arsenal as losers. Am I being harsh with the losers? Am I being too generous with the winners? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. So the fallout from Marcus Rashford leaving Manchester United on loan to Aston Villa continues, and Ruben Amorim has given another reason why he has loaned out Marcus Rashford and why he was frozen out of the matchday squad. Indeed, he was behind even youth players that had never played a game of football before this season for Manchester United in the Premier League. He said the following. He said, "I couldn't get Marcus to see the way you're supposed to play football," which for someone who has played 500 games for Man United, he's played a lot of games of football for Man United. That's a pretty damning statement, to say the least. But let's have a look at the full story here, guys, which is on thefootballchronicle.com as always. Manchester United manager Ruben Amorim has revealed that Marcus Rashford's loan move to Aston Villa was due to the attacker's inability to see eye to eye with him regarding his footballing philosophy. The 27-year-old Rashford joined Villa on loan until the end of the season, with an option to make the deal permanent for £40 million, potentially ending his near lifelong association with Man United. Speaking about Rashford's departure, Amorim said, "I couldn't get Marcus to see the way you're supposed to play football and train the way I see it. Sometimes you have one player that is really good with one coach and the same player with another coach is different. I wish the best to Marcus Rashford and to the Villa manager Unai Emery, and they can connect because he's a very good player." When asked if Rashford explicitly stated that he disagreed with Amorim's idea about football, the Portuguese manager responded, "Like me, that is not the way it occurs. It's something that you feel as a coach and as a player. It's quite normal. It happened with a lot of coaches. The important thing is that I'm here saying this was my decision. I like Ty Malacia, and Anthony was my decision to do these loans and to keep some of the players even without any transfers." Amorim also stated that he admitted that he took a risk by not signing more players in the January transfer window, despite allowing Rashford and Anthony to leave on loan to Villa and Real Betis, respectively. United completed only 2 signings in the window, with left-back Patrick Dorgu arriving from Lecce and centre-back Aidan Heaven signing from Arsenal. "We are taking a risk, but we want different things in the team, different profiles. It was my decision to do that," Amorim explained. "What I feel is that the club is taking its time. We know the urgency of the moment and of the team, but everybody here does not want to make the same mistakes of the past. In the summer, we will see, but like I said, we are being very careful with transfers because we did some mistakes in the past." Their recruitment has been absolutely abysmal at times. It really has for a long time. Despite the changes faced by Man United, who are currently 13th overall in the Premier League, Amorim remains confident in his approach. "I'm not naive. I said that many times. This is a sport of results and we are in a difficult situation," he said. "I know when I choose this profession that you have to take risks as results, and I knew when I came here to look at the schedule, I look at the team, my decision changing everything in the middle of the season without the new signings is a danger for the coach. But I have a clear idea of what I want to do, and I take these risks because it's going to pay off in the end. Rashford made 6 appearances for Man United before expressing his desire for a new challenge in December. The England international's loan move to Aston Villa marks a significant change in his career as he looks to rediscover his form and contribute to Villa's success under manager Unai Emery, and a chance to play in the Champions League as well, of course. So what do I make of this? Well, it says it in the article that the timing of Rashford being frozen out is not coincidental. He was clearly wanting to go and make a move. I think that he probably either was told by Amorim outright, or he was kind of feeling like Amorim said that this isn't my style of play, I can't do this, so I'm looking for a new challenge. That's probably what he was meaning by that. And he's got it now. He's going to Aston Villa. He's going to play under Unai Emery, playing the Champions League as well, of course. So I think it's a good move for all parties, really. I'll be surprised if Villa sign him for that amount of money. I will be, to be honest. But if he goes and scores like 15, 20 goals, he's not going to do it, is he? He's not going to do it, but let's just say he does. Then it's a bargain move. 40, 50 million or whatever the release fee is in that situation for Villa. It's an absolute bargain. And Man United will think, oh God, what have you done? We've let this guy go on a cheap one relatively for that kind of form. But I don't see that happening personally. I think he's going to struggle to get in the side. There's a lot of great forward players. Yeah, they've let John Duran go, but look at some of the players they've brought in. Marco Asensio and Marlon, sorry. It's not a bad forward line. And Ollie Watkins, of course, there. Leon Bailey. There's some good players there. Villa have got a really good front kind of 3-4 players on the pitch. They're really dangerous. So yeah, we'll see how it works out, but at the end of the day, I feel like it's one of them things, like Amorim says, players can do well with one coach, but then with another, it doesn't work. The style of play doesn't work, the philosophy doesn't work, and clearly Rashford wasn't feeling it, and because of probably the disrespect that Amorim kind of felt after that. I feel like he probably wants to get rid of him because he's like, well, I'm the boss, so you're going. That's kind of my interpretation of it. We don't know what's happened fully, but it does seem as though they just don't get on, whether it's personal or whether it's professional. I think more professional, to be honest, but they do not get on with each other, so therefore they cannot coexist in the same club. Amorim, he's not going to budge on this. He's got his philosophy and he's going to stick to it, and good on him. It's worked for him so far. Not at Man United yet. He's not got the players and he needs for that yet, but I'm talking about in the rest of his career, like at Sporting and stuff. So yeah, guys, what do you think? Do you think Rashford will reinvent himself at Villa Park, or do you feel like it's just not working out for him, that his head's gone, for lack of a better expression? A bit like the focus on my camera has completely got, there he goes, back, there we go. But yeah, so football is the most popular game in the world, and I think this is partly down to the fact that it's relatively simple to play and simple to understand. You kick the ball with your foot into something called a goal to score a goal. It's pretty elementary, really, when you think about it. Even the youngest of children can understand it. And there's several rules that people who don't even watch football know about football. One of them being is that you should have 11 players aside in a game. But even the officials of some professional leagues sometimes make this mistake. Now, I'm highlighting this because over in the Netherlands, in the Eredivisie, Robin van Persie, who is the manager of Heerenveen these days, you may remember him from his time for the Dutch national team, and of course both Arsenal and Manchester United in England. But the team that they were playing, Fortuna Sittard, I believe it is off the top of my head, those guys actually had 12 players on the pitch for a short amount of time. Something that is, in Robin van Persie's own words, unthinkable. And I absolutely agree with him. The fact that this happened is incredible. In a professional football league in this day and age, that this actually happened, I can't believe it, but it has happened. Shout out to ESPN Australia for covering this story. I'll just read out the story, give my thoughts at the end. You know how we do on here, guys. But yeah, this is one of the most surprising stories I think I've seen for some time in the world of football, since probably that story about Lazio. Go and watch that if you want, if you dare to learn about that story. That was rather strange for sure as well. Heerenveen boss Robin van Persie was left exasperated after match officials mistakenly allowed Fortuna Sittard to field 12 players against his side on Saturday. The incident took place in the 88th minute when Heerenveen were 2-1 up, when Fortuna made a double substitution that saw Fosso and Dalhaus come off for Grujic and Johnson. However, Dalhaus didn't step off the pitch and played for nearly a minute. Van Persie noticed the man advantage to Fortuna. Yeah, anybody with eyes would notice that, surely, and protested on the sidelines before Dalhaus eventually came off. A minute later, Fortuna equalised through a corner to snatch 3 points away from Hereford. I mean, technically 2, because unless they went on to win the game, but yeah, to tie it after that happens is just, yeah, pretty terrible. I find what preceded that goal very special, is putting it very diplomatically, Mr. Van Persie. Fortuna Sittard had 12 men on the field for a minute before that throw-in. Apparently, that is allowed and possible. You can't imagine that. That is simply allowed. Normally, I never talk to referees and I always let them do their job, but it can't be that they play with 12 men. That is unthinkable. So I asked the fourth official, shouldn't you do something about that? When asked what he'd like to see done, Van Persie said, for example, reverse that goal. You can't play with 12 men against 11. I really can't understand that. I think that is really scandalous. The former Manchester United and Arsenal forward took over in May last year, and his side are 10th in the Eredivisie after 21 games this season. Oh boy, I mean, this isn't even like I said, this is a top level league. This is the Dutch equivalent of the Premier League. This is a big league, a professional league, the same league that the likes of the giants of the Dutch game, Ajax, Feyenoord, and PSV, they all play in this league, and this happened. Oh my word, how has this happened? How did that happen? And the thing is as well, like he says, they scored after that. They didn't score while 12 men were on the pitch. They scored shortly after. There was a throw-in that was taken after the 12th man eventually left the field. But to allow that is unbelievable. I think in that situation, personally for me, they should do something like a drop ball, but I imagine it's one of them situations where the referee is like, well, there's nothing in the rule book that accounts for this, because obviously, why would it? Because why would 12 men ever be on the pitch for one side? That is something that should be impossible, especially in this day and age, but it happened. So yeah, unthinkable, unbelievable. And we complain about referees here in England enough, right? We do, and rightfully so, but my word, other countries make some mistakes too, and the Dutch are definitely not exempt from that. But yeah, guys, what's the strangest refereeing decision you think you've ever seen? For me, this one is up there, but the one that always comes to my mind as well is the 3 yellow cards in the World Cup. That was an absolutely ridiculous one as well. 2006, I think it was Croatia and Germany. Look that up if you've not seen that before. For the young kids that can't remember or weren't even alive maybe back then, but because it's absolutely unbelievable. I think he was English actually, the referee. I think, yeah, he got banned from like UEFA competitions and stuff after that. Unsurprisingly, but yeah. For much more stories from the weird and wacky world of football, do keep it tuned here to thefootballchronicle.com. So, I heard on the radio yesterday while I was driving around that Harry Kane has a really surprising clause in his contract for Bayern Munich. Of course, Kane left Tottenham Hotspur a couple seasons ago to go to FC Bayern Munich and finally win a trophy for the first time in his career, aside from the Audi Cup, of course, back in the day for Spurs. But in all seriousness, I think his chances of getting a major trophy this year are very high. They're looking very good in the Bundesliga this time around, are Bayern Munich, and they look like they're going to win it, with the potential for some others as well, like the UEFA Champions League. Although I do believe they're out of the German Cup, the DFB Pokal. But anyway, let's have a look at this here, guys, because like I said, that clause in Kane's contract, apparently, if it's true, would allow him to rejoin a Premier League club next season for a really low fee, really, compared to how much he was sold for by Spurs. But let's have a look at this article here on thefootballchronicle.com to get the details. A source has confirmed to ESPN that Harry Kane's current contract with Bayern Munich includes a release clause, following reports from German newspaper Bild. The specifics of the clause were not disclosed, but the source emphasised that the 31-year-old English striker is content at Bayern and has no immediate plans to leave the Bundesliga club. According to Bild, the release clause could have allowed Kane to depart Bayern Munich this winter for around 80 million euros, with the fee set to drop to 60 million in January 2026. The report suggests that any club activating the clause in January 26 would trigger a transfer at the end of the 2025-26 season rather than an immediate move. Kane joined Bayern from Tottenham Hotspur in August 2023 for a fee of around £100 million. As part of the transfer agreement, Spurs have the first option on Kane, but they would still need to either activate the release clause or negotiate a price with Bayern. The existence of the release clause opens up the possibility of a future return to England for Kane, with several clubs including Spurs, Chelsea and Manchester United likely to be in the market for a centre forward in the coming transfer windows. However, a move to Arsenal Arsenal, Kane's boyhood club. Yes, he did support Arsenal as a kid. There's a picture of him as a child with an Arsenal shirt, although he did join the Tottenham Hotspur Academy soon after that. Is considered extremely unlikely due to the fierce rivalry between Arsenal and Spurs. Despite the speculation surrounding his future, Kane has continued to showcase his goal-scoring prowess at Bayern, netting an impressive 70 goals in 72 appearances. The striker is also just 47 goals short of Alan Shearer's all-time Premier League record of 260, which could potentially motivate him to return to England in the future. Sources have indicated that while Kane is settled at Bayern, a move elsewhere such as the MLS remains a possibility in the future. Bild has also reported that Bayern has discussed potential future replacements for Kane, including Red Bull Leipzig's Benjamin Sesko, who is also a long-term target for Arsenal. So basically what it is saying is that in the January transfer window next year, clubs from the Premier League could activate that release clause and sign Kane for the start of the 2026-27 season. So Kane will be about 33 years old by then, which is not finished by any stretch of the imagination. And if he's still banging goals in at Bayern, I see no reason why Premier League clubs won't want him. And I also see no reason why Bayern Munich won't want to extend his contract either. You know, he is absolutely tearing it up in the Bundesliga. He's getting a goal a game pretty much, and if they do win the Bundesliga this season, he will be a large reason as to why that is. So we'll see what happens with this one, guys. I mean, for my money, I can see Kane coming back to the Premier League, but would he come back to Spurs? We'll have to see. I mean, there's a bit of a rivalry, to say the least, between Tottenham and Chelsea as well. They don't really get on. They don't like each other. Those games usually have quite a bit of needle, as it were, in them. So for me, honestly, I can definitely see him coming back, but if he were to come back, I think the most likely destination would be somewhere like Man United. I really do think that. But saying that, Man United are a bit of a basket case at the moment, to say the least. So I feel like they'd have to kind of sort their act out, really, when it comes to that. Liverpool's one as well that's interesting. I could really see him doing well at Liverpool. I really could see that, particularly if, like, Salah goes to Saudi Arabia or something like that, which in a few years' time could easily happen. But yeah, I could see Kane going to MLS. I could see that, but later in his career, I think, like, maybe when he's like 35, 36, I could probably see him doing that. But yeah, what do you guys think? Do you think Kane will stick around at Bayern for the entirety of his contract, which I believe has still got like 3 more years to run? So I think it expires at the end of the 26-27 season. I think something like that. So then if teams wanted to sign him for free in the summer of 27, they could do that. I'll get him on a Bosman. But yeah, your thoughts in the comments below, guys. And of course, will Harry Kane win that fabled trophy? Will he ascend this season? I think it will. I think they'll win the Bundesliga at least this season, Bayern Munich. But yeah, your thoughts in the comments below, guys. And we'll see you very soon for some more football content here on thefootballchronicle.com. Have a great day. See you later.